I'm Melissa King from WCMC. Can you hear me, everyone? Is that yeah, great. So today I will talk about the new Cultural Ecosystem Services module for TESSA that we've developed. And I will start with giving a little bit of information on TESSA first, for those not so familiar with the tool. And I will then briefly talk about how we actually developed the module, and then focus on what the module is actually structured, what kind of key tasks evolves, and the outputs from it. So to start off, TESSA stands for Toolkit for Ecosystem Services Site-Based Assessments, and it is available as an interactive PDF at this link here. And it was developed to provide accessible guidance on low-cost methods for how to evaluate the benefit people receive from nature on protected sites, but also other sites. And the important thing is at the local level, in order to generate information that can be used to influence decision-making. So the whole tool was designed for conservation practitioners, for them to be able to identify ecosystem services that were important at the site level, and then be able to identify what data they need to assess these services, and then what methods they can use to find that data, to be able to influence decision making at the local level. And these are the key characteristics of TESSA. So as I said, it's a primary data collection tool, and is focusing on being low cost and participatory methods. And no kind of specialist knowledge is required, and we're also focusing on being a rapid. We're sort of saying about 3 to 4 months from starting the thinking about the analysis to actually providing the results to decision makers. And it is relevant to the site level and the local decision making. And currently we have 5 modules, the 5 ecosystem services are included. And it's cultivated goods, climate regulation, water services, harvested wild goods, and nature-based recreation. And these are the 3 forthcoming modules we are incorporating hopefully next year, which are cultural services are one of them, and the other one is pollination and coastal protection. So, looking at how we actually developed the module, we used the same approach that we used for the other modules of TESSA. So we organised an expert workshop. So back in 2014, beginning of June, we had a 2-day workshop in Cambridge, about 15 participants, from a wide range of places, mainly Europe, UK and the States. We also had Opera's representative, Craig there and Marianne, and it was a mix of academics and NGO experts. And during these 2 days we very much focused on looking at what type of methods are available that can be used to value cultural ecosystem services by focusing on the way that TESSA, so the format of TESSA within the format TESSA. So these are the methods or kind of output we came out with. So the key tasks under this module is that you will start with trying to identify and characterize the cultural ecosystem services provided from the assessment site. And you will then go on to map the cultural ecosystem services where this is appropriate. And then you will assess the cultural services. And then lastly, you will assess the potential changes in cultural services provided by the current and alternative states. And this is where in the other modules of TESSA, we actually looked at an alternative site, so an actual alternative site, whereas we felt during the workshop that this wasn't really possible for the cultural services to find an actual site that would have the same cultural services. So instead we're kind of looking at the current site but under alternative states. So you're looking at, depending on the scenario of the, why you're doing the assessment, so if there are different management options you're looking at, or is it development kind of scenario, different threats that's coming on, and that's how you kind of compare. You then evaluate the different cultural services on the current setting, and then what it would look like after the development and management. And the structure of the module is you have 4 sections, and the first section is just giving the background, sort of why it's important, what is cultural services first of all, and why it's important to include it in the assessment, the kind of challenges and considerations that you need to have. Then the second section, focusing on choosing the appropriate methods, and this is what TESSA is doing for all its modules, that it kind of provides you with a list of different methods, and then it's up to the assessor to choose which methods are most appropriate for that context. And the third section is then going through these types of methods that are available. So we're looking at the first method there. That's the one you use to identify and characterize ecosystem services. And we are recommending the free listing first of all, but we're also having a suggestion of photo voice and interpretive drawing. And the second method is sort of trying to do the mapping of the cultural services. You have participatory mapping. We couldn't quite identify another method that was appropriate. And then for the last sort of methods, the third section is we're combining the kind of third and the fourth task there of assessing and evaluating as such and comparing the different sites. So the first one is visioning, and then we didn't quite come up with a catchy name for the third, or the B method there, the understanding, describing and mapping implication of the alternative state. And then the third method is scoring, the assessment of important cultural services. And then the last section is focusing on how to presenting and communicating the results to decision makers. As I said, it's a very important aspect of TESSA that you want to make sure that early on when you do the assessment you kind of know what way you want to communicate with the decision makers. Just have that, bear that in mind. And then you have a look at the outputs. So when you've done the assessment you will have a list of the cultural services benefits that people think are important for this area. You will have descriptions of what these benefits mean, and you will also have a map where it's appropriate for the physical location, and an assessment or evaluation of the importance of these services, and again showing the importance of that, the current site and then the alternative site, how that would differ. And these are just examples of outputs, sort of graphs, maps, and some quotes that we borrowed from Anya. So that's it. Thank you very much.